Hello, my name's Grizzly Joe. Today I review the DVD Islam: What the West Needs to Know. Please be advised that when you watch this DVD, it paints Islam with a very broad brush. You've got to have your critical thinking cap on when you're watching this. That said, does Islam sanction violence perpetrated in its name? This is a very disturbing but educational documentary. Currently, Western politicians, the media, and Muslim activists refer to Muslim terrorists as fanatics, a fringe of the Muslim faith. This film posits that the supposed fringe, in fact, represents true Orthodox Islam following a literal interpretation of the Quran. The history of Islam is traced back to the violence of its earliest days in the 7th century. Shown in its historical context, Islam condones and indeed requires violence against non-Muslims. It is argued that purported peaceful, moderate Muslims must reject the Quran, and therefore they are actually outside the true Islamic belief system. The justification for barbaric beheading of perceived enemies is justified because Muhammad himself beheaded people personally as a typical 7th century warlord. It is noted that some Quran verses speak of peace and tolerance. However, those particular verses date back to the earliest days of Islam when Muhammad had few followers and therefore little power. Speaking of peace when one has little power can be seen as pragmatic. Quran verses are not organized chronologically, but by their length, longest to shortest. Where conflict arises between verses, those that physically appear later in the Quran make the earlier, longer verses null and void. Therefore, the violence inherent in later verses cancels out any peaceful notions in the earlier, longer verses written when Islam had less power. Orthodox Islam is shown to be an all-encompassing cultural paradigm dedicated to establishing Islamic law over the entire world. Only then does Islam declare that Islamic peace will reign over the world. So, how are suicide bombings justified? To die as a martyr for jihad is an assurance of salvation in the afterlife. Islam requires Muslims to kill non-Muslims. The goal of Islam is for Muslim law, Sharia, to be spread over the whole world. Further, September 11th, 2001 was not a random date on which to attack the United States. September 11, 1683 was a significant date in Muslim history. The film opines that September 11th was chosen to signal the reemergence of Islamic Jihad against the non-Muslim world. Islam is presented as a geopolitical system of government. Sharia is wholly incompatible with Western ideals of human rights. Thus, while Western politicians seek a dialogue with Muslims, the dictates of the Quran make this impossible. That is the perspective of this DVD. Again, paints with a very broad brush,